Welcome to the Peace Driven Leader Lounge with Dr.Minesha, Dr. M, affectionately known. Super excited to be able to share some Peace Driven Leader insights from none other Miss Shervon. Listen, that podcast was absolutely awesome. Definitely make sure you go back to the previous podcast and check her out. She really spoke about her work and just the work that she does outside of traditional practices when it comes to getting people to fully embody themselves as a form of healing and recovery. And so, as you know, I do my peace related insights. So don't mind me. I have tons of notes that I'm going to be just kind of pulling out and extracting the key things that I want you to continue to digest from a peace driven leader lens. Okay. Insight number one, peace driven leaders ruffle feathers on purpose. But we don't rupture people. That's the thing. We invite this sense of tension or resistance is what I call it. And we steward resistance well. And so when we feel that resistance come, we lean in. We don't get impulsive and start, splattering our opinions. Instead, we pause, we lean in, and we use a disruption as a doorway to growth. And so there was a lot of things that was said on this last podcast and a lot of our podcasts, but particularly this one was so interesting because there was one type of modality that she used that uses cannabis. And she really gave us education and insight. And one of the things that really came up for me is that when we allow ourselves to get curious, then we become open to get informed. And when we get informed on a thing, that's what allows us to be less judgmental and more like, more open to be able to hear what's being said. One of the things too I noticed, just as she was sharing her story, there was a thread that we saw where she was being invited to the next dimension of thought, being invited to the next level of opportunity in her work. And that happens so much in our own personal journey, right? There's always a silent invitation that's happening. And we have to be aware. He that pays most attention is the one that lives the best life. Right. So it's all in the attention to the seemingly insignificant things that are happening all around us in our life. And that's why I believe that one of the largest threats to society and humanity is noise, distractions, constant things coming your way. You really have to live your life in a systematic way so that you are very intentional and streamlined about the things that you give your attention to. Living in that way really helps you to silence the noise and it regulates your nervous system in a way that allows you to heighten your discernment, which is very necessary and brings me to my second point. Discernment is the leadership skill that protects your nervous system and your assignment. So this insight is really powerful because peace is power. It's not passive. I'll say that again. Peace is power. It is not passive. And what it does is it's very selective about the access that it gives to others. And so in the teaching, one of the things that we talked about was that there is a inner world to every room, every voice, every expert. Peace driven leaders know how to curate their own inner world, based off of proximity. What do I mean by that? So you could hear a person and they could be using swear words or colorful words, like Camille said in one of our episodes and you don't. And that could create a distraction for you to really get the information. I was in a situation like this, to be completely transparent. I was invited on a podcast, powerhouse leader in the business space, and really, really some great insights. But every now and then, she used some colorful language, right? And so, how do you curate your own inner world? And the way you do that is that you are settling yourself in the good. There's this idea that there's good in everyone. Like there's no one extreme, you're bad, and the whole other extreme, you're good, right? But there's no one that can really judge that. You're doing that based off of your own principles, standards, and values. It's not life is just not black and white like that. And this ruffles a lot of feathers too. My mom really she took her many years to even get to the point where she can hear me say this. But I'm like, there's no good or bad people in the world. We are all on a journey, and we have lost or we've created distance. Let's say that we've created distance between where we are and our divine self. And so whenever we're doing things that are bad, right, in our eyes, according to our principles, standards, and values, then what that means is that we are creating a larger distance or a gap between our divine identity. But we all have the capacity to be right standing, and the key is to be able to go back home to yourself, because yourself knows what that looks like authentically. Yourself knows what's integral, what's aligned to you and your core values. And if we just live in a society that just draws us further and further away, seemingly, unaware. We don't wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I'm just going to go as far as I can for my divine identity." No, it doesn't work like that, right? But that's why we want to make sure that we have that app, that accountability tool that's keeping you anchored and grounded and asking you those questions that no one's going to ask. You can go a whole day, a whole month, a whole 6 months to a year, and no one's going to ask the questions that this app asks, because it really does. It's like it guides you through questions and answers and through repetition, so that you're truly living your life in a way that is prioritizing the things that matter. Right. All right. So the next insight that we got from this last podcast was, I reserve the right to be wiser tomorrow. You'll hear me say that all the time. This is an emotional intelligence move, you all. This is my disclaimer. And so you're welcome to use that as often as you need, because sometimes as leaders, we get little room for error, right? That's one of the biggest things about being a leader, especially a leader of leaders, is that you said, like on both ends, from the home front to the team at work. It's like you said, but you said, even the media, right? Oh, we have a clipping of her saying this, but now she's saying this, like I do get the space to evolve, right? In my thoughts and where I am, and we all do, right? So we have to give each other room for continued growth. And that's what this space is all about. It's about growth leadership, right? And so this creates a humility and a stability so that people have permission to evolve. This is a space where you have permission. And then I'll say this, when it comes to questions, questions are a spiritual strategy. And this is my secret sauce in the app. And so I want you to really get good at asking better questions as a leader. Think about ways that you can ask your spouse, your children, your team, yourself, okay? Yourself, especially, better questions. All right. And then one of the key things that I think you'll probably hear throughout just our podcast, because this is something that a lot of our peace driven leaders understand at a very deep level, and that is the power of consent. Because without the power of consent, now you're moving into manipulation. Okay. And hey, I'm just here to give it to you raw, straight, no chaser. We're moving into manipulation. That is a thin line, right? When we're talking about leadership, because it's your ability to be able to spark a person's desire and move in a direction that you feel is best for them. And the key is that you want to move them in a direction um that they have consented, that they desire, right? They may not know all the answers to the path, but they do desire the outcome. And so that way, that's like their invisible signature. And what happens when you get a person's consent is that they are open to receive. A lot of times what we do is we spew out information without the consent and our judgments and our opinions and all the things. And this usually happens in casual conversations amongst the ones that we love the most. Isn't that something? Most of our discouragement and defeated thoughts and all those things that we battle with internally, that we have to spend time unraveling, comes from the people that we love, that are in these casual settings and just are unaware of how their words are impacting the way you see yourself and your project or your business idea. So it's really key to make sure that you are anchored within yourself and that you're very discerning about who you share certain things with. Now, with that being said, what does consent and love and leadership form look like? And so, especially when you have a strong conviction, and this is speaking to me, right? One of the things that I have to really refrain myself from, and it's so challenging, right? It's easy, but it's not, I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy. But I'm going to share with you. And that is, the strong conviction can bring about this intense passion. And that intense passion can easily be confused as a person who's not open or a person who's not willing, like this confirmation bias. Like, I'm not really trying to hear what you have to say because I'm already sold on what I believe about the thing. That's not what you want. And if you are that type of leader who comes off very passionate, it can be a double-edged sword. And so one of the things that I recommend for leaders that have this passion, so that it doesn't, push people away, it's very good to get used to these disclaimers, as I mentioned, right? Like, man, I come off very passionate. Excuse me, I can come off very passionate. This by no means is a reflection of my ability to be able to, or my interest to hear what you have to say concerning the matter, right? So these are these statements that you can say so that people can hear the passion, but it doesn't turn them off to the point where they don't feel safe with you, right? So that is some of the key things that I want to say. Consent is a lot about boundaries, you all, and boundaries is a very important key factor when it comes to your ability to influence and cause people to feel safe. And remember, you want safety because safety creates vulnerability, and vulnerability is the gateway to true transformation. All right. So until next time, I look forward to seeing you all in the next podcast. I'll see you in the lounge. Bye bye for now.